Hey, I'm very excited to be back with another exciting episode of YOML, a year of magical learning. Today we're on 173, Reflection 173. We finished the three-part series of Running with Sherman last week. So we're going to venture with a new book. Well, Chris, let us know what you have in mind.
Yeah, this one was a rare fiction book in the
Oh, is it?
journey. This one's called The Midnight Library by the author Matt Haig. This is like one of those uber successful blockbuster kind of novels, like top sellers, on the bestseller list. One of like
Oh,
Nassim
really?
Taleb's,
Okay.
like like how did this become this way? I don't know. It's just it's like this is they'll probably make a movie out of it someday or something like that.
Is that good,
So
huh?
no, I mean it was that popular. I don't think I don't think the book was that good, personally, but this is actually another book of Felicia and I did together. So,
hmm
you know, we were trying to find a compromise, like, this is why fiction pops into here every once in a while, or like, later it morphs into like comedy books and things like that, from like comedians and stuff that are like comedy memoirs. Like we kept trying fiction books, we kept trying, different things, and
hmm
the whole point was to live our values. Actually, that's a part of the reflection. So I'll just actually jump right into it.
hmm
So what is this book about? The reflection title for this one is looking backward can move us forward. So this book is about the Midnight Library. So this lady named Nora Seed is the main character of this fiction novel, and she wants to kill herself. I mean, I'm not going to spoil this because it's a fiction novel. She kills herself. And when she kills herself, she goes to this place called the Midnight Library. Instead of dying, it's kind of like a purgatory. So in this Midnight Library, she has every book that she pulls off the shelf.
hmm
It can be whatever life she wants it to be, and then she can go back and try to live it and try to find a better life if she wants to continue to live. So she does. So she explores a lot of different lives of, like past regrets, and like what if I had married this guy instead of this guy, or what if I had stayed swimming and became like an Olympic swimmer, or what if I had, it's like all the what ifs and it onlys and if onlys, like, from the power of regret, right?
hmm
She gets to go explore these things and figure out if life's worth living, I guess, with if her regrets were different, or if her life was different or something like that. So the I won't ruin the ending. Well, I guess I will. I mean, because I'll probably end up ruining it in the reflection, but anyway, so
It's
that's
all
what the
right.
yeah, so that's what the book's about. It's about that's why it's called the Midnight Library. The Midnight Library is
I
kind of
mean,
like,
how can you learn from the book unless you know what is going on, right?
yeah, it's true,
So,
that's true.
so
Uh,
it's going to be hard to understand the reflection if you don't give away the essence of what the book is about. And so I
so
think for the sake of the lessons we can learn from this, I think you're gonna have to spoil it.
yeah, yeah, I think, and I did in the reflection. Now that I think about it, though, it's like these. That's if this entire journey was all fiction books, this would probably be a bad journey. People would be like, "Man, I don't want you to ruin every fiction book for me." Like nonfiction, you don't really care because you're like, "Oh, beavers must dam." Like I get it, okay, like I mean, I'll check it out myself because I want to learn about beavers some more. But like, like there's there's not like some aha, where it's like, oh shit, like, no, it's you're just learning about beavers, like there's a million different things that we didn't touch on, if
hmm
you read Eager, so anyway, this is a fiction book though. So anyway, I'll start this reflection off with my wife. So at this time when I wrote this one, this was the 12th book that my wife and I had finished. I think we're probably on 20 to 25 now or something like that, over the past year and a half since we started this walking, during the spring, summer, and falls, outside, like listening to a book with Luca, and
hmm
or just walking by ourselves, before Luca got here, where we're listening to an audiobook. So it's kind of cool to talk about the compound effect. I wrote in the this reflection, we're officially that weird couple, that people walk by and we're, you know, have a little Bluetooth speaker and we're, you know, playing an audio book as we're like are walking around the park. And I have to feel like people are probably, when they walk by us, are probably like, what the hell? Like they're the weird people, you know, like, oh, here comes the people that are always listening to an audio book. Like it's, you know, it's weird, you know what I mean? Like most people just like, I don't know. It is unique and weird, but then you know, for me, it's funny because, you know, when you're living your values sometimes, and it is counterculture. Like, you know, you're put into a box with everybody expects you to do whatever you want to do, or whatever they want you to do, and whatever society, you know, values and norms and rules are out there. You know, when you live a life of intentionally trying to live your values and bring that out in what you do, this is the random weird shit that ends up happening where people are like, they're the weird people, and I'm like, no, you guys are the weird people. Like we're just doing what we want to do, you know, like and you know, expressing ourselves and enjoying our lives, you know, and doing stuff that we enjoy and makes us happy. Like you guys are the ones that are silently walking with your head down around the park, you know. Like I mean, like I mean that's your, you know, that's you. But beyond that, Nora Seed, as I was talking about, is the main character of this novel, and she is stuck in her life, and she, you know, talk about living your values. She's unsuccessfully tried to seek validation from the outside world that her life had value in the beginning of the book, and she decided that she didn't. She decided that, you know, her value was so meaningless in this world, based off of the outcomes that she was experiencing, where she, you know, her job sucked, her love life sucked, like her you know, career ambitions, her education, everything she wanted to do previously in her life and had set out goals for, just all sucked. And she was just like, you know what, like I don't think my life has value, so she tried to kill herself. But you know, lucky for her, she ended up at the Midnight Library, and she got a chance to go, you know, a redo where she could say, okay, fine, like, you know, do you want a chance at life, like, you know, and she was like, sure, if only, you know, I could have done this, or maybe I could go back and, you know, explore my past regrets. So she would go pull a book off the shelf and she would say, you know, I regret when I quit swimming, because I was really good at it, but I, you know, stopped because of whatever. What if I would have dedicated myself to it? Then she would see how her life would play out like that way. Or what if I had stopped dating this guy and started dating this guy that I had met this one time, and like, you know, what would life have looked like with him? And she gets to play that out, right? You know, or what if I had traveled to the Antarctic to go do archaeological or like oceanography studies or whatever, some of the stuff she was passionate about at one point in time, you know, like what would that look like? So she kept going through these different scenarios, and she would pull a new book off the shelf and live that new life. And every single time that she would do it, something bad would happen. Like these if onlys and these regrets, you know, that in her mind was like, well, if I just would have, if only I would have done that, you know, or if I hadn't have done this, you know, like, and everything would have been different. Well, truth is it wasn't. She was always found a way to be unhappy in every one of these lives. You know, it took her, you know, life after life after life of trying to live again to realize, you know, maybe it's not the scenarios of life that was going on. Maybe it was her, kind of thing. So ironically, it all goes back to where this journey started at the very beginning with the alchemist, you know, where Nora decides to go back to her original timeline, and she decides to take ownership of her own life and her own story and her own future by trying her to be herself and bring that out in her original life, because it doesn't really matter what circumstances are. She's got to figure out a way to, like, you know, be happy in whatever she's given, and be happy with herself. So this actually reminds me of The Power of Regret, you know, the book that we did, you know, book Reflection 134, The Power of Regret. And he looks at you know, the if onlys and the what ifs, you know, and how powerful the idea of regret can be, of telling a different story, you know. So Daniel Pink talks about how we are the authors and the actors of our own life, right? So we can create a new story for our future self, and the possibilities are really endless. But you have to do it by exploring the past, right? You have to go back, and you have to figure out, like, how did I get here? What can I change? And what did I learn about myself? And then propel use that insight to propel your purpose forward, right? So that's kind of the genesis, the gist of the reflection of looking backward can help us move forward, you know, by going to examine those if only past regrets and if onlys and what ifs. You can find those nuggets, those values, those things you really care about that you can take back to like the little, like we call it the little Triforce, you know, and Zelda, where they like lift it up and they're like, oh my god, I found this value and this regret, you know, and you can, you know, use that to add another little piece of the puzzle of who you are and how you can best express yourself to navigate this world, because it's hard sometimes, you know, and you never know what you're going to get, but like nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you know, use the passive powers forward. That's it. That's what I learned from this one. Yeah. What do you think?
So what happens to her?
She goes back to her life. She goes back to her original life. And
But she's dead.
No, so the Midnight Library is purgatory. She didn't die. So like she killed herself in her original timeline. But she didn't, when she went to the afterlife, she actually went to this holding room called the Midnight Library. So she never actually fully died. She was like in a weird purgatory where she had the option to jump back and forth into different lives. And at the end, she chose her own timeline again because she realized, you
so
know,
completely different life, like somebody else's life.
Her and someone else's like timeline. It's like if you had infinite possibilities of scenarios that could play out, your life could play out. Like,
but it's her timeline. It is that she gets to take the left fork of the road, the right fork of the road, right?
Yeah. So like, let's say that I said, you know how we were just talking right before this about starting a pickleball club. Like, what if I killed myself and I was like, man, if only I would have started that pickleball club. Like, I know I would have been happy then, you know, like I would have, you know, who knows, I would have maybe, you know, had a successful life. And then she'd pick up the book and she would start that life again. And then her life would play forward from there. Like, you know, she would have a new family, she would have children, she would have whatever in this life. And then she would, you know, that's how then she would decide if she wanted to keep it or not.
So in the end, when she go back to her original timeline, make the same decision she made before, right? Whether she quit swimming, right? So she still quit swimming.
Yes.
So what happened going forward from the point that she killed herself? What's the ending?
It went back to before she killed herself, when she went back to her original timeline and she chose not to kill herself. And
then they take you past the point where she killed herself, where she's still alive, and what was?
No, it was just, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and this is how I'm going to live my life, and I'm just happy and content with that, and I'm gonna go down that road, you know, and with a different perspective, you know, going like nothing's ever going to be perfect, like like this is you know,
I mean, to me, this book sounds to me like, you know, eat the frog for breakfast kind of deal. It's like, hey, you know, rise, grind, and repeat. I
said it wasn't my favorite either. I mean, to be fair,
that's to me is the gist of what I'm getting out of this, right? Because be happy with what you got.
No, it's like The Alchemist. It's like, you know, you can go explore
all. No, it to me, it's a fine line between be happy with what you got, right, and be able to see, right, who you are truly inside. Because I can say, well, I've got this, right? This is who I am. I'm gonna be this idiot that doesn't know shit, right? And this is who I am. So what the fuck would I start learning? What the fuck would I challenge myself? What the fuck would I do any of these things? To me, there's a fine line between accepting who you are, right? And knowing who you are.
Yeah, no, right? I agree.
Because the thing is, when you don't know who you are is defined by somebody else. It's an external validation. Say, hey, Chris, you should be, you know, an A student. You should be this white guy, blah, 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 and be that. Or you say, hey, Chris, I'm a tennis player, right? I'm a writer, right? You define your own self, right? That's a true self, knowing yourself versus being who you are. Who you are is what defines you. So either people defines you or you define yourself. And to
Right.
me, that carries the perspective. For me, that's what I'm saying is, does it overlap? Yes, it's overlap a lot from the two perspectives. Because the thing is, you gotta be happy with what you got and who you are.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's not the essence of what I think what humanity is about, right? Because like I said, I can be put into a place where I was told to eat the frog, and I said, well, I'm in this place where, well, this is who I am now because I've been here for the longest time, and I can say, well, yeah, I need to be happy with it. I need to be happy with eating the frog. I need to be happy with embracing suck. And to me, that looks like
I
the
see what you're
society
saying.
of today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me, so it's a little bit confusing
It doesn't give you a
to
blue. It doesn't give you a compass going forward. It just gives you a reason to be happy now, like is what you're
that,
saying.
right. To me, to be happy, to force yourself to be happy is not the right way.
I don't
I
know that it
I,
was. I don't know
I
that she
think,
was forcing
well,
herself to be happy. I think
you
that
told
she
yourself
discovered that
that
there's
that's the
nothing perfect. Yeah.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, if you tell that nothing's perfect, then the reality is that nothing's perfect. Because,
Right.
like I said, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're also right. That's that's the premise
Fair.
we talked
Yeah.
about in the past, right? For
Right.
me, from the two perspective of embracing the suck and like who you are, and you know be content with what you got,
Right.
right? That sounds good, and it could be overlapping 80% of what we talk about in terms of find out who you are and be that person. But it overlaps that like eight, almost to the point where it's almost exactly alike, but it's different. So
Yeah.
you can say, well, my right hand and my left hand, it looks exactly alike, but are they alike? It depends on the perspective, right? It's not exactly.
Yeah.
So 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 it
But
disguises itself as being this solutions to be, say, you should own up to your whatever you got, whether that you're short, you're fat, you're ugly, right? There's nothing I can do about it. I can just embrace the suck and say, if people hate me, let them hate me. If people torture me, let people torture me. To me, eh, I don't
you're
know.
you're
I don't know if
you're
I
you're
liking it.
you're diving into the story of the actual book itself. I think my reflection was more about going to explore your what ifs and if onlys. Uh has the ability to unlock a lot of your identity of what you really care about is kind of what I was getting at, and to really power that path forward, by going, why did that really stick in my crawl to know that I didn't start that I didn't give, like, here for instance, tennis. Tennis is a really important part of my life, right? Like, and it's always
Mm,
been. So I've been playing since
right.
I was like 5 years old. A lot of times when I there was there's been many a times in my adult life, where I've said, man, if only I would have taken tennis as seriously when I was younger, and at the kind of more of the peak of my abilities and time that I had to go play, and unending people and resources to go play, as a youth in high school, or growing up. Like, man, what could have been, like, because now my powers of tennis only grow and get better all the time, but I'm also in my late 30s now, and I mean, a part of me used to think, like before, like Emilia, like, man, if only I was taking this more seriously when I was younger, I wonder what could have
Yeah, but
happened.
I think that's a
But
double-edged sword,
it
because
is,
the thing is, you can say, well, my past can help me move forward, but my past can also anchor me to the point where I can't
agreed.
move forward.
Agreed. That was what I was going to say. Is what my reflection was about is I've stopped doing that, and I was like, what did I even love about tennis in the first place? Like, take that and do that. Like don't worry about if it's tennis or not. Like, what did I love about tennis? Like, or what did I love about
Right. So that's what I'm saying is, it's a double-edged sword. So you have to have
I don't need
the
tennis to be
ability.
happy.
Well, the thing is, so let's take the scenario of where we're talking about like your past, looking backward can move you forward, right?
Right.
Because that in itself is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And so the
you're right.
thing is, you cannot use the sword directly. You have to have training before you use the sword. So you cannot use the past, right? For whatever you need to do to improve your future, you have to have training first. And to me, training meaning go back and do self-reflection first,
Yes.
then go back and do the past, because you can take it, well, that piece of the past for me, I know which one is going to be beneficial, which one isn't, and I can just filter it out. And so to me, looking forward, looking backward can move you forward only if you use it correctly.
Agreed. I was going to pull up my notes from the power of regret, with so his thing of what do you do, right? So it's self-disclosure, it's get it out in the world. And where I'm saying, man, I didn't take it seriously when I was younger. I should have. And then it's self-compassion. It's going normalize and neutralize. So look at things like you would tell other people, like, it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like it didn't change anything that I didn't take tennis more seriously when I was younger.
That's the thing is, if to me, no one knows, right? No one knows, even if you take it seriously, no one knows if it make it a different, right? And even if it's different, it's gonna be to your liking. And so for me, it's one of those things where you can be walking, right, and have no idea where you're heading.
Right.
But the question we asked before is, if you're following this little lineless footprint, how do you feel? Do you feel you're on the right path? To me, that's the only thing you know at that point in time.
Yeah,
even if you say, yeah, I have this power with regret, I can guarantee you can ask anyone rhetorically, anyone, is there anything that you regret doing or you would like to change? Everybody would. That's just the way the mind works.
Right.
Everybody, 100%, everybody would, because I should have, go
said I
for
love my kids more or something.
pursue this, pursue that, or I should have done this, I should have done that, or whatever. There's always those scenario where we second guess
I
ourselves
should have
because
taken that job, and quit my job,
exactly, or I should not have taken the job, right? I should stay, or whatever. There's always, right? But the thing is, no one knows what a single slight change in that decisions will turn out like.
That's the whole point of the book, was like, whenever time she would jump into a new life, when something would tweak, something else would tweak and other things would tweak. And then, like, all of a sudden, like, her brother and her family isn't the same, or her dad died, or, her beloved cat died, that she loved so much in the original timeline. Or it was always something was always like, that she liked about her life was now effed, and the stuff that she didn't like about her life may have changed, but it was always like you take one without the other.
It's not the same. The point is not the same.
Right.
And so for me is, when you go back and say, I have this regret, you have no idea what you're asking.
Agreed.
Right? Because no one knows. Like, I don't know what's going to bring tomorrow. Because I keep saying, I don't know what tomorrow brings. I may not even wake up tomorrow. Right? I might not even wake up next week. Who knows? No one knows the future. Right? And so that means that even if I go back, like yesterday, a year ago, whatever, even if I change stuff, I have no idea if that's going to change for the better or the worse. And that's the point, is it's always unknown. So to dwell on the past prevents you from going to the future unless you have the right training.
Exactly.
Yes. That's the reason I want to bring this up is because I think it is really important to have the perspective of be able to train yourself to look for things that you would need, right? Because there's always going to be noises versus signal. And which one is going to be the correct signal, correct data point versus the other one, just a bunch of junk. And
Agreed.
so it's going to make you worse if you don't learn how to like train how to handle a sword before you pick it up.
I totally agree. I mean, so it's the self distance, right? It's zoom out in time, space, and language, and look at it as if you're a coach or another person. You know, like you're not trying to analyze. You're not trying to decide whether or not the outcome. So I have a rule these days. It's in my journal every single morning when I write it. I try my best to do this. I was doing it today. Honestly, because today over the weekend, on Friday, there was like a bit of a shit show that happened with one of my employees in a project that we were working on. It wasn't necessarily their fault, but it turned into a big fire that had to get put out, right? So one of the things I always tell myself these days, every single day, is I try to have like a clean slate every day. Like it is literally like there is what happened has happened. Like, you know, I cannot change it. I mean, like it does not matter. I can learn from it and I can decide what I want to do with that going forward. And I can decide, filter it through my values and filter, like, does this align of what I want to do going forward? Like I said, zoom out, like zoom way the fuck out and like act like you're the coach or somebody that's completely overseeing your life and go, okay, like, is this that important? No, it's not. Is it, you know, is it worth going any further examining this? Like, what lessons did you learn? Okay, great. Now move on. You know, like clean slate, like wipe it completely clean. Like you can't have the best day of your life unless you go into it with you know, the right kind of a mindset from the get-go, right?
Yes. And so to me, this is where I rest my case in this, because you are actually training your brain to say, well, the past could help me, but in this case, I want a clean slate so
Right.
that my past doesn't hold me back. So you had the right training so
Right.
that the past isn't harmful to you.
Correct. But it took a long time. Like, but that's what I said. The past.
That's a training.
This
That's
is
a training, right? Because without the training, people is gonna be completely immersed in these miserable of things that they couldn't
what
change.
And if only is the regrets, the power of the regret, like in a bad way. You know, the bad side of the regret, but regret can be a good thing to power us forward as well. You know,
only with the right training. The sword is to protect, right?
Agreed.
Only if you know how to use a sword.
Yeah, you're right. No, I mean,
right?
you're spot on.
Because you imagine, like, if I give a baby a sword, what would you think happens? What's the most like? I mean,
they're gonna stab the first thing they see. I mean, or themselves, like probably. I mean, shit.
What?
Like,
Well, imagine that. Imagine that scenario. I give a baby. Maybe I give Luca a sword. He's a year old, right? You give him a sword. What happens? What's the chance of him hurting himself with a sword?
Pretty high, probably.
Right. Yeah. So what? So what's the chance of?
I gave Luca a butter knife the other day. I didn't even mean to. He likes to do the dishes, and the little utensil basket is like right up in the front where he can reach it. So he likes to help me out with the dishes. I try to take all the little butter knives out first before he like takes out all the forks, and he just starts chucking them, or he like hands them to me as I'm like putting them away. Anyway, I missed one of the knives and I wasn't paying attention as I was putting silverware away. And all of a sudden he came running out, like going like this with the knife, like just and he started stabbing the cabinet, and he happened to yell "mom" right at the same time. I don't know why. And Felicia wasn't home, but I took this video of him where he's going "mom" and like just like stabbing like, you know, a cabinet, and I was like, whoa, that was weird. Like, yeah. So I said it to her when she wasn't here. But to your point, yes, like he just started stabbing cabinets. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. You know,
right. Somebody's gonna get hurt, or he's gonna get hurt. That's right. Like 99% of the time, and there's no way 0% that he's gonna offend anyone. No. But the thing is, you know, before the advent of the gun, right? Countries and nations are ruled by the sword, right? Because, you know, they can protect and they can conquer other worlds. It's just you know, you have to have the proper training. Same thing in the past. The past is like a sword. Without training, it's going to be 99% of the time will harm you. Then will. But once you can master your past becomes the sword to protect. Yeah. And it can,
lessons,
you know,
powerful lessons,
catapult you forward. And so the power of regret only can catapult you forward only after you have mastered the art of the sword.
Yeah.
Right? You have to master the art of your past, the art of the regrets. Without the training, right, by default, it is detrimental to you.
It's traumatic,
Because
like, I
because
mean, we
you are
talked about.
you're going to be drowning in the misery and the sorrow of your past.
100%. I mean, it's like traumatic, right? And it reminds me of the body keeps the score. It's one of those things where, like, it's trauma is the imagination thief, right? And regrets are traumatizing. Like, you get stuck in the past, you get stuck in a hell loop, and you can't get through it. Like, you have to just accept it, learn the lesson from it, and then reopen your imagination to a future with a clean slate, right? Like, I mean, it's like you almost have to create like a mini atomic bomb in your head every single day, going like, look,
I
whatever
mean,
I do
sometimes you
before
have
gets
no
wiped,
control over it. You have no
Right.
control over the sword, because the thing is, I think a lot of these books, like the Power of Regrets, and like this book, for example, it's going to give you some essence of the benefits of the sword. But what people don't realize, that you cannot handle the sword unless you have a proper training. And it is very dangerous for people to take up the book, like, the book, the Power of Regret, and say, I think I should focus on my regret and do blah blah blah. But the thing is, if you don't have the mastery, chances are whatever you're doing, it is going to cost you to be drowning in the sorrow that you had in the past, and you won't be able to move forward.
Right.
Like I said, an example, like give a kid, little baby, a sword. There's zero chance he's going to use it to move forward. Right? 99.99% of chance he's going to hurt himself.
But oddly enough, that kid probably won't remember it the next day. Like, so they do a really good job of clean slating every
But the
single day
point I'm
with the
saying
babies.
is the point of the probability, right? The
Right.
probability of somebody using their past, the drama, the regrets, to
Right.
propel them forward. To me, that's a very, very low chance. It's a very low chance, because, I mean, the example I say, like, if you don't know how to handle
Yeah.
the sword, the past, i.e., that's my
Well,
analogy, the past, chances are it's going to harm you.
agreed. Babies don't have writers, right? So babies aren't helped or harmed by the past. Like, they're just elephants walking around doing elephant shit, like, and I don't know, when do you think you get your rider, officially, that you hops onto your elephant?
The rider, you probably won't do that until you get to maybe 11 or 12.
Okay, so you don't even get a passenger on your elephant until like 11 or 12, right? So, like,
Yes.
you're right. I don't have any regrets from when I was 8 to 10. Like, I don't. I mean, there's nothing that I regret when I was younger than 10 years old.
I mean,
Probably.
like, the thing is, when I chopped down all of my dad's trees, in the plantations, I mean, I chopped them down, but I have no regrets whatsoever.
Right. Well, you
I
don't
never
remember it. I mean,
reflect on it. I remember
right.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't remember, like, there was no event other than I just did it, and like that was it.
I just
Like,
did it,
yeah.
and my parents was really mad at me, and I got a
Right.
whooping. That's
Yeah.
all I remember. That's all I
They,
remember. And from that perspective, right? It's like, I don't regret it, because there's
yeah.
no there's no emotions to that, right? It's like, oh, I feel bad. Oh, I feel good. There's no emotions to that event whatsoever.
Because you're a blank slate every day when you're a kid. Like, you just wake up and you do shit. There is no thought of past or future. It's just literally, I'm just gonna do shit today, and you're like, why'd you do that? I don't know. I mean, I just did it. Like,
Exactly.
you don't have a writer to even have regret. Like, because that doesn't happen until later on. But obviously, there's got to be an evolutionary reason for the writer, because it can power can keep you safe. You can learn lessons
It
from it, and you can,
can, but
yeah, it can, but it
that's a
also can be
caveat.
bad.
That's a caveat
Right.
that I want
Right.
to issue the warning.
It can also be
Is
awful. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You have to respect the soul. Have to respect your past. Have to respect your regrets. Right. Respect it. Treat it with care. Understand how to use it properly. Because if you make a mistake and you're untrained, you are going to be in for a hell of a life.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's not it's
it's a
not the
roller
good
coaster.
hell that I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
right. It's the hell that Nora Seed was going through when she decided to kill herself. Like, and I mean, like it's just like one of those things where, I mean, I go back to Daniel Pink, you know, we're the authors and we're also the actors, you know, like, I mean, we can change the story, and we can be completely method acting, right? I mean, it's like it's all the stuff that we talked about, you know, with Will Smith and, you know, and all this other stuff in the past, right? Like we can shape whatever we want to shape going forward, but you gotta take a completely detached approach from your life every single day, you know, like, and go, oh, okay, well, what could I, like, you got to basically be a 10-year-old, you know, again, or a 5-year-old again, where you're like, I mean, you know, in a good way, like, you know, like a 5-year-old with intention, you know, because that's when you're beavering on purpose, you know, versus just beavering,
Right,
because
but
probably
the thing is,
five-year-olds
I
just
don't
beavering.
think we don't really need to go to that extent, because to me, like, as I go through this journey with you, man, my mind is like convincing me that the way forward, for me, at least for me, I can't speak for yourself, but for me is, as long as you understand who you are, right,
Hmm?
and you manifest that person, that's as simple as I can put it. The rest of it is just
For sure.
basically like little, you know, attributes of the same thing. It's a same manifestation of the same thing, that people get a glimpse of an observation here and there, and they take it and put it together. Hey, this is good for you. But the real reason why it's good for you is because it goes back to the ability to manifest or express the gene that you have.
Right.
To me, I'm convinced. I'm like utterly convinced. That is the root cause of everything.
But you could be wrong.
I could, but I'm saying is my brain convinced me
I know, I'm kidding.
that
I'm at the, you don't know
I,
anything is my point.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I know, and I told you, I know, um, following a footprint. I know, like right now, right, how I feel. That's the only thing I know. How do I feel right now? Like, I can't see the future.
Right.
Right? I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, what's gonna happen, whatever. I don't know. But the only thing I know, and I think everybody does as well, how do you feel if you're on
Today.
this
Yeah.
journey?
Right.
If you say I am not happy with this journey, you're probably on the wrong path. I mean,
I agree.
the thing is, I know that you and I can feel the present. Okay, that's the thing. That's, to me, is the only signal that I have, the only point of reference that I can use to judge whether or not I'm on the right track, or I'm not on the right track.
Right. Regrets in the past and anxieties in the future, and like today is what it is, right? You know.
Right? Because if you can take today and say, okay, how do I feel today? Right? How do I feel? Where am I at? Right? Was it better than yesterday? Right?
Wherever you go, there you are, you know.
But that's the thing is, that's something you have. That's something you know. You don't know anything else, but that's one thing you know. Right? Are you with me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I
Right?
mean,
Because the
this
thing
is
is,
not an easy perspective to have to carry all
if
the
you
time.
go to the point where you say, I'm working at this job, right? I hate this job. Well, that's your evidence right there. Your
Right.
evidence that
Right.
you don't like it. That's not what you be. That's not your beavering. You're not beavering,
Right.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
No, I agree.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you know how you feel right now.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like, do you feel like you're content, or you feel like, no, I'm discontented, or whatever? Do
Well, right
you?
now I feel tired, but yeah, not discontent, just tired.
But the thing is, these things are your evidence.
Right.
Whether you're tired, discontent, or whatever, these are evidence. Use that evidence to say, what does this evidence tells me?
I agree. I mean, I was like in a weirdest way possible. Like, so I've been running in the cold for the past, you know, it's December, what day is today? December
19.
19th. So I've been running in the cold in the Midwest, you know, now for the past roughly month and a half or so. You know, it's been at least 40s, 30s. Today was like 17 degrees out or whatever, and I was out running, and I'm noticing more and more. Actually, my body feels good, I feel really dehydrated right now because I think like the humidity or something like that, just the moisture in the atmosphere, like just kind of gave me but to your point of like you'll notice it, right? Like I'm noticing it now, like how dehydrated I am in the mornings and I'm not hydrating well enough before I go on these runs. So like I mean I have to change that up. If I want any different outcome to feel differently out in
Exactly. That's my point.
yeah,
That's
right,
exactly my point, because you have the feedback
right.
and you say, well, I mean, I
I
have
can
the
keep doing
feedback.
it and I
I
will.
can
I mean,
keep
I have
doing
been,
it,
right.
right? Or you
But it
say, hey, I
sucks.
don't.
It's miserable.
I
Yeah,
don't, right? The
right.
thing is, if you ask yourself, well, is this the kind of life I want? Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Right?
Right.
You know how you feel. So to me, that's the only thing that we know for ourselves. And from there, you can say, well, I'm on the right path or I'm not on the right path. If I'm not on the right path, then I have to change something
Right.
to make sure that I can find who I am, right? Because if I'm a beaver and I'm in a desert, right? Well, it doesn't
Right.
feel good. I promise you, it doesn't feel good for that
Yeah.
beaver.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you'll know it, and the beaver will know it. You know, like I mean,
Right?
right. It's easy to understand when something doesn't feel right. Like then it's hard to figure out why it is, and then to change course going forward. You know, and then make that an active part of your life and retrain your elephant. So I agree with you. But either way, that the power of the past, like me talking about the retroactively this morning of how I felt when I was
Potentially,
running, has the potential
potentially.
to that potential has the potential to change yourself going forward, and that's all that we really need, I think, is the potential and a clean slate every day. So the I mean I don't know. On terms of this book, not going to recommend it. In terms of the lesson, I think it's a good lesson. I think it's
I
like
mean,
the
I
power.
think it's an interesting book. I just
Yeah.
think that without a good lessons, I think the plot is weak. But the
I agree.
concept
I think the
itself
plot's
is
lame.
I think the concept is good because it forces you to think about, okay, the decisions I made, was it the right one, right? And people need to think about it, right? Need to think
Agreed.
about the things that they make decisions on. Are they happy with? Are they stuck in the past? Or the decision they make, if they make the decisions using the same matrix that have been used before, and they get them to the same places where they feel the same, you know, icky, hated feelings or whatever, then
Right. Something
the
wrong.
matrix is wrong. The matrix of
Right.
decision they use to make that decisions is wrong. And
Yeah.
so I think the concept, I think is a good novel concept that I would like to see. I just think that I don't know. I haven't read the book, but from what I'm asking you is what happens to her after she went back to her timeline and do the thing. What has she found out? What has she done
That's
with
when
the
the book
aha?
ended. So
So
we
if
didn't
she
know,
had
like
that book there, then I think it would be a better book.
so the Midnight Library at the very end actually collapsed. Like the whole thing collapsed, and that was when she picked up her last book and she went back to her original timeline, and that's how the book ended. Like so we don't know what happened.
I think it's a weak plot because the ending wasn't they didn't give
Right.
you closure. I think it's
Well, it
eat
did.
the
I mean, she went back to
eat
her
the
timeline, but
frog, eat the
yeah,
frog.
fair enough. Fair enough. All right. All right. All right. We're I'm officially exhausted for the night. So what are your final thoughts for the reflection here? Any final takeaways?
My takeaway is this is my warning. You cannot handle soul unless you have training. So don't try to un like peel off the past without having a way to deal with it.
100% agree. Read the Power of Regret. It'll give you a how-to guide on how to overcome that, and then put it into action. And because I agree with you, I think it's a really good point. And then the question we can leave for everyone is what key insights would you discover to apply to your future story if you explored your past, what ifs and if onlys? Something to think about, and something to write about, something to reflect about. And yeah, look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Yep, another exciting episode tomorrow. So stay tuned. See
Have a
you.
good night.
Good night.